Thank you guys for joining us. My name is Paul Pendergast, Chief Agronomist here in Florida for mano-Y-ola. Today, I'm going to just talk to you about our two programs that we're initiating here in the state, the HFLO and the HCSCI programs. Basic stuff on the HFLO, it's forest land. So we're looking at people here in Florida, Hispanic landowners who own forest land here in Florida. And the point of this program is to one, identify, that, hey, forest land is being owned by these individuals, but also to help improve whatever, conservation or resource concern problem that you might have on that land. So when we think about a resource concern in a forest land, this could be anything like invasive species. This could be improving the forest stand by taking out less suitable species so better species can thrive, incorporating wildlife habitat. Or if you are, cropping in your forest, we could do things like alley cropping or help things with irrigation. All things can be done depending on the situation and the land use concerns. Switching over to the Climate Smart program, we look at those as pasture land. So we're helping the cattle and the ruminants like sheep and goats better use of the land by helping the land from the use of the animals while also providing the animals better use of the land. So when we look at that, we're looking at providing more shade for animals through incorporating trees. And the HCSCI component is the Climate Smart Commodities Initiative. So we're trying to sequester carbon that we're losing through every day. Naturally, the carbon that leaves, we're trying to sequester that carbon and keep it in the ground. Therefore, maintaining a healthy stand and forage for your animals while also providing a healthier, suitable living environment for your community and the planet. Very small steps that we're taking to do this, but they're very important at the same time. So when we're looking at this, going out there, resource concerns in a paddock type situation can be difficult water use, difficulty getting to that water, frequently traveled paths in the paddock area that are susceptible to high erosion. You have areas where you could have too much brush, not the type of plants that the cows, cattle, goats, sheep are going to want to walk through. It might be a little thorny, dead plants, things like that. We can help control the brush management there and clear that out to have a more suitable pasture, a healthier stand. Through these two programs, both identifying land that is owned through Hispanics, we're trying to push our conservation practices by enhancing your land. Florida, we have started here. We have been in other states, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas. We're starting in New Mexico, and we also have influence in Puerto Rico, which is where our Climate Smart program is stemming from. So through all of this, we have gauged community influence, community reactions. We have gone to different conferences, held different activities where farmers can come and give their opinions. And so far, it has been a very, very positive feedback on what we have been providing. And we just want to continue that here in the state of Florida. And me as your outreach specialist here is I want to be the forefront leader in that and help you in any way that we can. Applying for these programs or getting more information on these programs is as simple as going to our website. And we also have a flyer going around with a simple QR code that you can take a picture of. It'll take you to two intake surveys. It'll kind of just gauge, what is your land? What is it looking like? Where did it come from in terms of like what has anything happened in the past? Did it ever experience a wildfire? Did it ever sustain hurricane damage at one point? All little facets that we can use to help better a plan going forward for your land. Money and funding through this, it's a slower process. So we're looking at the forefront of implementing conservation practices with the financial incentive being, a great backing. So looking at the two different programs, the types of financial incentives are different. With the HFLO program, we are trying to incentivize the cost share that is already going into a lot of the conservation practices on your land. For example, say you have a conservation practice with NRCS, forest stand improvement, and you are clearing out trees and helping the biodiversity and the other living trees in that area grow to full maturity and getting a better canopy cover. NRCS and USDA is going to help cost share that program, which means they are going to fund you money. Then a percentage of the whole project, you're in charge of that portion of the payment. We are going to help come in and help incentivize that portion of your payment to help lower the fund that you have to pay, or help incentivize the entire thing altogether, depending on the program. With the HCSCI program, it is a bit different, but again, we are asking that you put in 1 acre of your land. Paddocks tend to be a little bit larger than forest land here in Florida. So again, that's like a very small amount of your pasture land that you need to put in. With the Climate Smart program, we are incentivizing and giving trees. Species of trees is dependent on where you live in the state, what you are trying to get out of those trees, and just your personal preference on trees. If in South Florida, there's going to be the options of everything in North and Central Florida, with the addition of fruit-bearing trees, nut-bearing trees, and a lot more options to choose from, similar to our sister island of Puerto Rico. While in Central Florida, we're going to be looking at more things like your native swamp and live oaks, possible pine species, possible species of eucalyptus, which could be a fun additive into the Central Florida environment. But doing all this, we have to remember the University of Florida's database for trees and non-native influence of trees in the state. And we want to make sure that we are not adding any non-native trees that will then reciprocate and be negative to our environment. So while we are implementing this Climate Smart program, that is one of the things that we're going to push forward, is making sure that we pick applicable trees that are suitable for the environment and suitable for the landowner or grower. While you get into these programs, the expectations are different on what we need to do. So with HFLO, it is relatively just, like I said, helping improve forest land here in the state that is, privately owned by an individual of Hispanic descent. Looking into these programs, you don't really need to do much other than be, like I said, the owner of the land, and be willing for us to come out and help build a conservation plan, and you be perceptive and putting in the plan into action. Really, with the HFLO, that's about it. With the Climate Smart program, we do require an education component with that, about 15 hours of education classes that we provide, whether it be in the field or a module online. Different people need different needs and the ways that they can attend these classes. So we will work with you to get you these 15 hours, but the purpose of this is to help introduce you to this new market that is growing in the country, which is the Climate Smart trading carbon credits market. And we want to get you involved in that, know what we're doing with this program, the science behind it, and possibly have you set up as one of our test farms that will actually collect data and show the levels of carbon sequestration that are happening on your farm. Again, that would go into the future. That is totally volunteer only. We would not come and just do that without your consent, but it's something that we're doing in Puerto Rico. The farmers and landowners are really liking the idea of being able to see the facts and figures behind what's happening underground in their land, something that, can't normally get done. Again, these are little incentives that we're doing to help, get into these programs. And again, these numbers will then push us further for helping us get funding and more programs and grants going forward in conservation. So Florida is a very, very, very good candidate for these conservation practices and programs that we are trying to initiate. But it also comes with its challenges. As we know from our sister island in Puerto Rico, tropical areas with warm climates come with a price. That price is severe weather. So what can we do to try to influence these conservation practices, but then, at the same time avert around these natural disasters? Well, one of the biggest things that I can say is we just have to try to mend with it. We have to try to mend with the natural disasters that happen here in Florida, because, like I said, they are natural and they are a disaster. But these natural disasters are what make Florida the beautiful place it has, because when something comes through, such as a hurricane or such as a flood, yes, it causes property damage to homes and farms, but to the land, it actually helps bring up the land. Like you hear from a wildfire standpoint, taking out a forest stand, but then that forest stand comes back even stronger. The same happens through hurricanes. The same happens through floods. Yes, it can be very devastating to your financial property, to taxes in the future. But when we're looking at a natural effect to the environment, it's actually quite positive in the long run. This is something that has been going on before humans have been here in the US, even on the planet. We have had natural storms and disasters. It's a very normal phenomenon, but we as conservation professionals need to know that going forward that they are a possibility, and we need to revert and try to, help as much as possible. We want to try to help everyone here in Florida because, as one of the most diverse states in both demographics and environment, Florida is a true key to conservation success here in our country. And if we can pilot that here, I think that, a lot of states would look at us and say, we are a diverse state. We have a lot of needs, but if we are seeing a state like Florida do it, we've seen states like California do it in the past, we can do it too. And we can be that pioneer for states in the future for conservation.